Hear that? That's the sound of a patient whose health data is protected from a cyber attack. And that's the sound of a financial system that's digitally secured from bad actors. Right now, there's an invisible war being fought on a digital battlefield that impacts what we do every day. That's why at Peraton, we do the can't be done to help protect the vital systems we rely on. Because if we don't, the alternative is unimaginable. Peraton.
Welcome back to the Direct-to-Video Connoisseur podcast. As always, this is Matt here, and I'm almost at a point where I should be saying, and as always, I've got guest stars Ty and Brett here from the Direct-to-Video from Comeuppance Reviews with us here. But welcome back, guys. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having us on.
Happy to talk about some Dudikoff.
Talking Dudikoff, talking Mike Dudikoff.
He's never credited as. It's never Mike. It's always Michael.
It's always Michael, never Mike Dudikoff.
Right, just like it's Bob Hoskins instead of Robert Hoskins.
Yeah.
It's the opposite, right? It's the reverse. Yeah.
I have some other ones though. I can just name one. No one calls Al Pacino Alan Pacino.
No one ever says Daniel Glover or John Depp.
Do they say Bob De Niro, or is it always Robert De Niro?
The people that pretend to be friends with him say that. I was working with Bob and
or Sandy Bullock.
Yeah,
Sandy Bullock. That would actually be a good one. I like Sandy Bullock.
Yeah, I always never liked I worked with Bob. I text him all the time. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah,
it's like,
right. Yeah, right. Yeah. But I think one of the things about Michael Dudikoff is, in case anybody was wondering, that's the topic of our episode today is the great Michael Dudikoff. And I think the fascinating thing about him is I think he's someone that's like firmly DTV. I think even like Don the Dragon Wilson, if you're someone who kind of dabbled in DTV in the late 80s, early 90s, but mostly did big screen stuff, you'd probably still know of him or Rothrock, whereas Dudikoff is like firmly, it's like you were somebody, if you know Dudikoff, you were someone that was like digging in the video store.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, exactly. What do you guys, what was some of your earliest or kind of where you first really kind of got a sense or discovered Dudikoff?
Who wants to go first, Brett?
I'll go first. Going very far back in my memory, I do remember with a friend of mine, I believe I was in elementary school, and we had this sleepover, and we went to a video store and rented American Ninja 2. I believe that's the one was on this island, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we rented that, and so that's almost like a video store memory to go back to that thing that we do on our podcast. I do remember that I was over his house. It was at night, and we rented American Ninja 2, and I think we thought it was cool. And but I probably didn't think much about Dudikoff, till many years later when I was more into movies. And then, he was a cable mainstay. So if you had the pay channels, his movies would appear a lot on there. And I kind of went from there. And then years later after that, we were doing the website, and then we're filling in the gaps from all the ones we might have missed. So it's kind of like a slow progression. Discover a movie in the video store, see the movies on cable, then go back to discover the ones we missed. So I mean, for me, that's kind of how it worked.
And then for me, I remember it's like I've heard of this American Ninja movie, so I rented it at the video store. It's like, hey, it's pretty cool. I got some great explosions. He's like, it's awesome. It might be on the list, obviously. And it's like, this is really entertaining. I want to look into this Dudikoff character. And then okay, then I found a bunch of other ones like Human Shield, Chain of Command, all those type of movies. And it's like, this guy's cool because he has the cool hair and all that stuff. So it's like,
well, I was going to mention the hair. Like in the 80s, that was a little more important and maybe more noticeable than it is today. It's like, oh, here's a cool guy with cool hair, and he seems cool. You know what I mean? He seems like he'd be a cool guy. He didn't have like a forceful character. Like a
right.
You know what I mean?
Likeable.
Like he's likable.
Yeah, and that hair. What's interesting about that hair in the late '80s is it was kind of more. It was a hairstyle that lasted. Like you could keep that hairstyle into the 90s, into the like he could still use that hairstyle, which I thought was kind of, now that you mention it, like he didn't have a very 80s hairstyle when he was doing 80s movies. He could use that. It was like kind of like it wasn't quite a crew cut. It was a little longer than a crew cut, but it was spiky enough.
Yeah, spiky.
Right, which is the hair I always wanted. As a kid, that's the hair I always wanted. And it's true. That's a good point, because the hair was almost ahead of its time.
Right.
Like in the 80s, that was more the style in the 90s. So I definitely think he was a fashion trendsetter, very fashion forward. He was.
And I mean, for me, I think it was also American Ninja 2, and it was the same setup where it was like a sleepover kind of thing. And I remember my buddy and I renting it and rewinding. We were more Steve James for that movie because he was just so over the top, with the whole I want fresh meat, and he's like throwing guys around him. We realized he was the inspiration for Jax from Mortal Kombat, or at least it seemed like he was. If he wasn't, that'd be a really weird coincidence that his name is Jackson and he's picking up people and throwing them around the same way that Jax does in the game. But it was that I remember that, and I also remember the Cobra TV show. Of course, that was syndicated TV at that time was such a big thing. It just felt like like especially weekends and being younger, it's like if you weren't doing a sleepover, if it was like just hanging out by yourself, or if you did something during the day and went home, it just seemed like for what was on TV at night, especially. Syndicated TV really was it, whether it was Renegade, Highlander, and then of course Cobra was another one, and so I remember him from that kind of stuff. And then in the early 2000s, like I want to say like 01 maybe, Joe Bob Briggs did Virtual Assassin on his show on TNT, and my buddy and I were watching that, and I remember he was kind of making fun of the movie, and he was talking about Michael Dudikoff as an actor, and he was reading off a list of titles that Dudikoff had done, and they were all 2-word titles. Everything was, obviously American Ninja, Bounty Hunters, Avenging Force. I mean, or was it Avenging Force? Or I can't remember.
Yeah, it's Avenging Force. Well, it's almost like Seagal. Seagal had the 3-title phenomenon that we always talk about, a 3-word title. And so I don't know what it was purposeful or not, but yeah, I guess Joe Bob picked up on the fact that a lot of Dudikoff movies are 2 words.
Yeah. And so we were just like, oh, man, we got to go to the video store and get everything this guy is in, because it was just awesome. Like, yeah. And so, just, remembering the clamshells. And of course, with Dudikoff movies, those were clamshells that were stacked. With the spine out as opposed to the cover out, because they were so bad. It was just like they were in the old racks or whatever. How with the video store, right? Like you had your new ones were cover out to let but then ones that were kind of overstock were so we were able to see those 2-word titles nice and clearly along the spines there, and and that was it from there. It was like and I mean when I started the blog, it was like he had to be one of the first Hall of Famers, and it was I think there's just something about him. I think you're right about the hair being ahead of the curve. I think even just him as an action star in this DTV realm, he was a bit ahead of the curve because he kind of predates what we now expect with first like Bruce Willis, and sort of this idea that somebody who doesn't do action could be an action star if you just dress them up the right way, because he wasn't meant to be an action star. He was he was doing I think he did like some teen stuff, but he was in Bachelor Party and stuff like that. He wasn't really meant to be who he was, and Golden Globus, to their credit, they saw something there. They dressed him up, and however many movies later, we've gotten this sort of Dudikoff gold.
Right. I do think the key word is relatability, because he's not jacked. He's not like some massive meathead. I wouldn't describe him as a meathead at all.
No,
he's almost like he's almost like an anti-action star in the sense that he wasn't all roided up. He didn't fit into any of the action cliches that kind of came along later. And so you could relate to him. Like you could be a kid watching that and say, hey, I can do what he's doing. It's not, and that's what made it such a great counterpoint to Steve James, who, totally different physicality and style. So it's definitely like a really good yin yang type of pairing. You know what I mean?
We all wanted to be Joe Armstrong, and maybe it's plausible.
Right, you think you could, because he doesn't strike you as a particularly large, imposing figure. He's just almost like a cool guy who can fight and do action and stuff,
Yeah. Well, I guess on that note, why don't we dive in? So the way it's going to work is we've got 2 lists this time. So I know sometimes I don't always have a list, but I've got a list as well. So I guess we'll go back and forth with our lists. And then we'll do maybe some honorable mentions and maybe some final thoughts, and we'll go from there. But Ty, why don't you give us your number 5?
Okay, I have the Human Shield.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good one for number 5, I would say.
Yeah. So what do you think about that one?
Well, it's a Canon, right?
Yeah.
That's a Canon production. In Israel, is he in Israel in that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of Dudikoff kind of like. Stunned faces. I think when I was doing screenshots of it, it's a lot of like, it's got some kind of like Lifetime Not Without My Daughter kind of feel
a little bit.
Yeah.
I was looking at your review before I put up set up the list, and it was like, I was reading your review, reading our review because we saw it a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
But it works out pretty well because it has all the classic Dudikoff you want. Wait, this is the one where he's really mad, right? Or is that Chain of Command? He's just yelling at I think it's Human Shield. He's just yelling at people. All he does is yell at all the, these generals and like these other like crazy politicians or whatever. It's like,
which is what you want.
Yeah. It's just like all he does is he's just screaming at them. He's like,
which is kind of unlike him, because when I think of Dudikoff, I think of kind of the cool, laid back guy.
I think he's just mad.
I guess he's showing his range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, well I was gonna say, I think one of the things about Golden Globus is that they would have kind of like these messages that they would want to get in their movies about like the Middle East and things like that. And so I think sometimes that would weigh the film down a bit. And they would delve into that like, Not Without My Daughter kind of, TV movie territory. But then you're right, you get this like real 90s, early 90s kind of standard action cheese fare that just is really fantastic.
Well, to me, that's a great mix, because, that sort of Lifetime thing, or the movie Not Without My Daughter, was very big. It was very hot at the time. So why wouldn't an exploitation producer like Canon kind of hone in on that and then do their own spin on it? To me, that makes perfect sense. And as far as, they're commenting on the Middle East, what's that movie that's really long and has Michael Paré and Lorenzo Lamas?
Killing Streets?
Killing Streets. They really went to town on that with Killing Streets, but not to get too off topic.
No, but yeah, this was more reined in Golden Globus, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's a good point.
I could be mixing up my yelling Dudikoffs, because I'm double checking.
If you get any angry emails about that, you'll know why.
Because I'm double checking Chain of Command. We could talk about that when when it's on the list, but it's not there yet. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'll mention it when we get to it.
Well, yeah. So my number 5 is going to be a bit of a stunner, because I think this might be up higher on a lot of people's lists. But my number 5 is The First American Ninja.
That is surprising.
Yeah,
that is surprising.
And I was really
I just say like these people do like it's like
Yeah, and I don't think this is quite the shock that wasn't it was it Mitch on when he was on your show doing the Van Damme one that I think he had Cyborg, I think, as his like one of his like his number one like bad Van Dammes, and yeah, I remember actually
it's a little more understandable than this. This is a definitely a left turn.
Yeah, I did not expect this. What a twist.
So my thing was, I like the movie. I think there were some interesting elements to it. Like, one is the fact that Golden Globus, they had this mindset that they wanted like this, what they called an all-American guy to be American Ninja. And the fact that you had Steve James, who was, a accomplished martial artist, has a bigger screen presence, and they thought, well, he's not American guy enough, because of his race. I thought that was a really odd thing, and it's like one of those things that I'm always torn about, because when I think of it, it's like, yes, Steve James should have been the American Ninja, but that then if we don't get Dudikoff as American Ninja, we don't get this whole career of Dudikoff that I've enjoyed so much.
Yeah, it's tricky.
It is, and I think it's why.
Tricky.
Yeah,
sorry.
Tricky. From Hack Blue.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. Go on.
Well, I was gonna say the other thing too for me is I think this is, for me when it comes to ninja movies, I think this one is more like you wouldn't have the other movies in this series without the first one, obviously. So you have to have the first one. I also think when you think of like other really great ninja movies, especially from canon at that time, it's almost like this one needed to be there because it did have a huge influence on sort of the whole ninja field. And so it's like, so for that reason, I was going to have it closer to number one, right? Because it was like it's so influential. And then there's these other aspects of it. And I think also as a movie, I almost feel like for ninja movies, for me personally, there are ones that kind of built on this and did things that were even better than what number one did. So it's like I'm always torn about this one because I really like it and I really think it goes to the front. But then there are ninja movies that I like better. So I put it at number 5, and I think it's kind of a crazy choice. I definitely agree. So I was like, boy, what's that gonna, I think we were talking about this, Ty. Like my list has been up and down with, right, I had the 5 movies, but where I was going to put them.
Exactly, I was wondering.
Yeah, so I said, you know what? Let's just go for it. Let's go big or go home, right? As they always say with sports cliches. So.
Well, and I appreciate that you did that. I appreciate the boldness of the choice. So, I mean, most people probably wouldn't do that. So that's definitely an interesting way to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now, how about you guys? I have a feeling this one's going to be further on your list as well.
It's pretty high up.
Yeah, so we're going to see it again. So maybe why don't we jump into number 4 for yours, then, Ty?
Okay. I have Virtual Assassin, aforementioned.
Excellent.
It's a die-hard kind of, and then he's like a janitor fighting Brian James. Can't help but enjoy it. Definitely kind of junky, but it's fun.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, I have this one as number 3 on my list, so maybe we'll just, why don't we package it right now? We'll just do it. So since they're so close together on here. Yeah, this was the one that got me back into Dudikoff. As if I really left him. I mean, that's like the 90s. It's
How can you leave him?
Right, exactly. I think because I was younger in the 90s feels like a longer period of time than it really was. It was like I was watching him in high school and then see him on Joe Bob Briggs in 2000, 2001. So it's not like it was like 2 or 3 years of really not watching a lot of Dudikoff that I suddenly came back to him. So it's not really like I left him that much. I guess it's just when you're young, 3 years seems like 10 years.
Yeah, I get that. He took a break and then now he's back. It's like.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Brian James as well. The idea.
Brian James or Brian James?
Well, it's supposed to be Brian. I always call it Brian because it's an O instead of an A or an E. So I always say
I've never heard it said out loud, really.
Maybe
it's kind of like Wing. It's like Wings Hauser and Joey Travolta.
Joey, yeah, which we mentioned on a previous podcast talking about Wilding.
Right, we talked about on the Wings thing. What you watch Wilding? Well, I think you not to get off track, I guess, but.
I did. I finished Wilding.
What did you think of it?
Yeah, it was very interesting. I mean, the end was kind of a trip. And that the guy that was like the friend of kind of the main character was kind of like the head of the Wilding kids. There was that friend with the leather coat, and his face was just he was just like a goofball looking guy, and he's like walking around with a gun shooting people. When he kind of takes more of like a center stage in the film, it's like it was kind of a trip. It was. Yeah, it definitely, there was some, I think one of the scenes I hadn't gotten to yet was the gym scene, the where they're in the high school gym and there's this cop talking to the parents. And you've got all these baby boomers with balding, with mustaches and stuff like that.
But they're high school, right?
Right, exactly. The high school. What do we do with our kids? What are we going to do with them? And the police officers telling them how horrible teenagers are at that time and all the stuff you have to do. And it's like, it felt like, oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was going to make a joke, so go ahead.
I was going to say, but it felt like AIP was definitely they were cashing in on that whole kids are out of control craze.
I was going to say these kids are better back then than today. These dang kids.
Right.
Yeah, the good news is that Wings Hauser and Joey Travolta will save us all.
Right, exactly.
Let's not forget about the great song, the
Don't try to stop tomorrow.
Yeah, by Benatar.
Yeah.
Bad.
Well, that's one of the many, as we call them. Well, I guess that's become a term. The Bat Penatar type things. Where, but that song is definitely a standout, though. I think.
Well, what I love about that song is this. I mean, it's the idea that like. It's like, yes, it's physics. I mean, I guess like because there's kind of a trend of people like being kind of anti-science, it seems like lately. So maybe that's like the next wave, right, of anti-science is like, no, you know what? There's no, just because physics tells me there has to be a tomorrow doesn't mean that I believe there has to be a tomorrow. There's no tangible proof that there has to be a tomorrow. And so, yeah, maybe that's like the next bastion of anti-science is going like against physics and saying,
don't try to stop it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's like somebody trying to get their right back.
But what year did that movie come out?
It was like 89 or 90, or I think it's 90 maybe.
Yeah, I think
so. Just ahead of its time a little bit then.
Yeah.
I guess we can go back to, we're talking about Brian James.
Yeah. I never took, I just took for granted that my friends and I, we always called him Brian because of the O. And I just took that for granted. I just said it. No, I think it really is Brian James. It's really Brian James, but we've just always said Brian.
I like Brian. Now. Yeah.
Like rayon, isn't that some sort of like chemical? It's like
it's like polyester fabric, right?
Rayon. Yeah.
which Brian James might have worn in a couple movies, like maybe Nightmare at Noon. Who knows?
Yeah. Virtual Assassin. I mean, would have a green rayon suit would have matched the green eyes he had when he was infected
really
with the computer virus. So.
Well, but I mean, I think all three of us are fans of movies from the 90s that include any form of VR or internet technology. So I think anytime a movie has that, it's a plus.
I just love the idea, right, that a computer virus is like somehow like infects people. It can infect a person and infects computers the way that like actual like biological viruses can.
We won't say if that's real life right now.
Right, exactly. Right, it's that idea, right? That like a computer virus works the exact same way. That it's not like that it wasn't just like a term that computer people use to describe what the line of code was doing to the computer, but it was the idea that you could be infected with it and you can infect people with the virus.
Right, and it's a good idea, and it's another example of DTV movies having genuinely good ideas that Hollywood movies could learn from.
And we've talked about that before because they have to work a little bit harder. I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
Like they have to think of newer ideas. So.
Yeah.
Line of Code. That could be a movie. You could find maybe like a Dollar Tree and like Eric Roberts sitting in a van or something. And it's just like.
Yeah, Line of Code. Yeah, and have a bunch of people you've never heard of, but it will also have Eric Roberts.
Yeah.
And you get it for $1 at Dollar Tree.
Yeah, for $1 at Dollar Tree. It's like this the made of Dollar Tree. It's like, because I think it's kind of, I'm making that it's a funny example, but there is a real example that's called Mark of Cain. So it's like then we think of Line of Code. Right. It's all these people I don't know, but Eric Roberts maybe sitting in a van with a seatbelt on.
I wonder, because Eric Roberts has like 600 plus credits on IMDb. I wonder what percentage of them are him talking on a phone. Like
85
probably a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be like the easiest ploy to get him into a movie. It's like, okay, Eric Roberts, you're only going to be here for 2 hours and you want $50,000. Okay, we need to get you to talk to as many people as possible, and they're not going to be on set at the same time. Fine, just talk to them on the phone, and we'll just do it that way.
What was that movie we watched and had Stephen? I think it was it Stephen Baldwin? He was on like a video conference and he looked really dumb.
William Baldwin.
William.
It's Maximum Force. Wait, no, sorry, Maximum Impact. Yeah, it was William Baldwin going, "Huh?" That's what he looked like. Huh? Confused. It's like, okay, I know you're looking at Alexander Nevsky, which is why, or why not? But just like, he looked really dumb.
He was kind of on just like a video screen, not doing all that much except looking dumb.
Hollywood mansion, bought by Backdraft. But okay, so
right, exactly.
And Backdraft 2, he's also in that, which I haven't watched yet.
Yeah, but it got him the money. He got, that was the thing in the 90s. In the 80s, too, I guess like kind of late 80s into the 90s, was that any movie that was like marginally successful had a sequel. It was like everything. I mean, Weekend at Bernie's had a sequel. Backdraft had a sequel. And
Well, it took a while for Backdraft to have a sequel.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Well, now, what was it? What's the company? Is it Sony or?
No, it's like Universal Studios.
Yeah, they make sequels now to, like, they just recently, within the past couple of years, they did. Was it Inside Man 2 and Kindergarten Cop 2?
Yeah.
And here's a new one. They did Sudden Death 2, right? Welcome to Sudden Death. And what's the other? Bulletproof 2. Bulletproof 2. So you couldn't get Adam Sandler and Damon Wayans.
Right.
But
so it's like someone's probably in charge of this department at
I think it is a department.
Company. It's just like, just make a sequel to a movie that came out 20 years ago. It's fine.
Right? Yeah. And then you go straight to streaming or Redbox or whatever and be like, I guess I'm not watching this, but all right.
That would be an awesome job to have. Like, you're working for like one of these places like Universal or Sony or whatever.
I love to.
Yeah, your job is like you receive scripts from people, and your job is to try to shoehorn them into a sequel so that they can be packaged properly.
It has to happen. Look at Cruel Intentions 3, Hollow Man 2, 8mm 2. That's a really good example. Yes. Isn't there another Wild Things 4?
Well, yeah. See, what they have is they have an eraser. So what they do is they get the script, whatever the title is, they just erase it, and then they slap on they probably have like a spreadsheet of movies that they can, then make like a quote unquote sequel to, and then they just slap that on the script, and then it's like cut and paste, and then there you go.
Yeah.
Well, the best sequel of that, of course, is Hollow Man 2, because our buddy Christian Slater is the Hollow Man.
Right, exactly. Who Ty and I were discussing last night. The reason why Hollow Man 2 doesn't work and a lot of other Slater movies don't work is that he doesn't fight Calm Meaney. He doesn't beat up Calm Meaney in them. So that's the key to a good Slater film.
That's why that movie did work. Soldiers of Fortune. So that's why, Soldiers of Fortune, where he punched him in the face.
And then he did that awesome elbow move, and it was the best movie ever. So
exactly. So people out there, if we ever do a Slater episode, it's just going to be a one episode show. And it's just going to be talking about how Soldier of Fortune was the greatest Slater film ever because he beats up Calm Meaney, and every other movie that Slater's done pales in comparison because it doesn't have that.
I don't like True Romance, Mr. Robot, Heathers, anything like that.
No,
Hard Cash. No, it's all.
Yeah, but don't you go after Gleaming the Cube, because we all love Gleaming the Cube.
Call Meanie in that, but it's like hit him with a skateboard in the head or something.
If we could get George Lucas to do one more Lucasing job, maybe if he could Lucas in Slater beating up Call Meanie into Gleaming the Cube, that would be perfect.
Or the easier way to do it is we'll just get Universal to make Gleaming the Cube 2, and then
perfect.
Yes, exactly.
That'd be great. I'm surprised I haven't made that yet.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I guess back to Dudikoff.
You're right. We can talk about this all day.
Okay. We had a little extra time because you and I had the same virtual status.
Right.
So yes, we can skip that one when it gets to me. But my number 4 is Radioactive Dreams, which is also on my Pyon list. I like the Dudikoff in this one is very different from the standard Dudikoff action lead, where he's more like this younger kind of like comedy lead in a way. It's kind of a film noir film. It's on my Albert Pyon list as well, my top 5 Pyon films, and it's another canon film. It's another Dudikoff canon flick. But I just as a unique one. And again, I probably could have put this one at 5 and American Ninja at 4, just because this is also kind of a little bit outside the usual Dudikoff fare. But yeah, I've always had fun with this movie, and Dudikoff was a big part of why I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I've never seen it. So
I've never seen it either. But
I have nothing really to contribute here except to say that no spoilers, because I've never seen it.
I won't mention anything. I think it is on streaming. I think it might be streaming.
What's that one with Stephen Dorff and Dudikoff? It's called Rescue Me or something?
Rescue Me. That's I think I have that one on VHS actually, because I was trying to complete my Dudikoff on the site, and
I never saw that either. But it looks like it's kind of goofy. Like they're both on like a motorbike, and Stephen Dorff's like 5 years old somehow.
Yeah. I actually saw young Stephen Dorff on a Roseanne episode. It's like an old episode of Roseanne when they were like Thanksgiving, and I think he was somebody's son or something like that. So it wasn't like he was dating. I guess it would have been. I don't know. It wouldn't have been Darlene. He would have been dating. It would have been Becky. But he was leaving. They were leaving. He was leaving the Roseanne. He had glasses on. I was like, oh my god, that's Stephen Dorff. That's crazy. He was like a teenager, in there. And so, Yeah, it's young Steven Dorff is always a good find. Anytime you get a young Steven Dorff in something.
There's that funny story where like Steven Dorff and Jerry Piven were like fighting outside a club or something. You gotta look that up online.
Yeah,
it's really funny.
I remember when vaping was first a thing, like when they were first starting that, and he was an advertiser. He was like,
Blue Emu or something. No, blue cigarettes.
They were blue e-cigarettes.
E-cigarettes. That's right. And I remember he's like walking on the beach with kind of like his collar up, kind of like James Dean style, smoking these e-cigarettes. It's like,
black and
we're
white
all
too.
adults here. It's no problem, or something like that.
That was hilarious.
Yes, I love that.
He's gonna bring that back.
Yeah, if you want to get cool people to do cool things, you have to get Steven Dorff to smoke blue e-cigarettes, and then people will get on board quickly.
Yeah.
Steve Dorff. No one calls him Steve.
Oh, Steven. Yeah, you can't be Steve Dorff. What I think the reason is, I think in that case, I think when somebody has a one-syllable last name, it's hard to do a one-syllable first name. I think it's better to go. Like same Stephen King is another one. They don't call him Steve King, although I guess they do call the senator Steve King or the congressperson Steve King. So from Iowa, so I guess that's but maybe he didn't want to be associated. They didn't want to be confused with Stephen King. But I feel like
that's like Johnny Depp, as I mentioned earlier. That's for John Depp. It's almost like too few syllables. It somehow sounds wrong.
Yeah, that might be the rule. That might be what it is. I mean, it doesn't explain Michael Dudikoff, but maybe in Michael Dudikoff's case, because it's 3 syllables for the last name, you have to have at least 2 for the first name to be like 2-3 or something like that.
Well, see, he doesn't have to worry because, his name was never in danger of being Mike Dude.
Right. Yeah. Dude. We used to call them dudes, actually. We'd be like, hey, get some dudes movies this weekend.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to say.
I'm saying that from now on.
Yeah, get some dudes. I used to say, I'd be like, get more dudes on the site. I would be like, I gotta get some more dudes on the site. I haven't gotten much dudes lately. I think the last Dudikoff film I did was the Zombies versus Navy SEALs that he had a small part in. So he's not doing much nowadays. So yeah, there's not a lot of new dudes coming up.
I guess he's like semi-retired, but he can always make a comeback. Cobra could come back right now.
Exactly.
First run syndication again.
Yeah. Oh, that would be nice to get another Cobra. I mean, with so many like streaming sites doing TV shows and like cable channels doing TV shows, it does blow my. I guess maybe the problem is that action TV costs a lot of money, so that's why it seems like the major networks are doing most of the action TV nowadays. It's cheaper to do like kind of these slim, stripped down kinds of deals, but and maybe you can make Cobra a little bit less showy and just have Dudikoff running around punching people.
Or, they could do like a Cobra Kai type thing where it's what Cobra's up to now and do like 6 episodes.
Yes, that would be awesome.
That'd be great. Because I guess, do you want to go to number 3 or you want to...
Yeah. What do you have for number 3?
Chain of Command.
Oh,
okay. That's when we were getting confused with...
Human Shield.
Human Shield.
Because I looked this up, which is... it's rated R for terrorist violence and plentiful language. So I think he's yelling and swearing at everyone in Chain of Command. I think
it actually says plentiful language.
Yeah, it says it right. I'm reading it right now. Plentiful. It's kind of like if you look up the My Fellow Americans, movie with Jack Lemmon and Dan Aykroyd. You look up the rating for that. It says PG-13 for salty language because they're old.
They're old salts. That makes sense.
They're old salts, so they have to say they're salty language. Yeah. A lot of people got killed in that movie. My Fellow Americans. People don't think about that.
I've never seen it, so
there's like an evil, evil army guy like killing off these people, and it's like people are dying, and this kind of this comedy. It's like old person comedy.
Right. Yeah, people died in movies a lot. Like they were just like.
That's...
but like the thing was, it was like it could still be like PG-13 if all you did was show the gun firing. And then the person on the other side, like leaning over, doubled over in pain. As long as you didn't show blood, it seemed like it was okay. But the swearing, that could get you a PG-13 or an R rating really quickly. Like you could kill as many people as you wanted as long as you just showed the gun firing and the person, as long as there was no blood, you could kill anybody you wanted to.
Well, that's really weird about that movie, I Love Trouble. Because, if you've ever seen that, it's Nick Nolte and Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
And a lot of people at least 10 plus people get killed on screen. It's the hardest PG I've ever seen.
Right.
People are getting murdered. Brutally murdered.
I mean, you can kill as many people as you want, but you just can't smoke a cigarette.
Right.
Yeah. If you smoke, that bumps you to at least a PG-13, if not an R, because you can't show people smoking. And if you look at why they did the ratings, it'll say smoking.
Yeah,
smoking or
nowadays,
smoking
especially.
caterpillar or something, or it's just like.
Yeah.
If you look up, I looked that up one time. There's some movie that has a smoking caterpillar or something. It's
Like an
like,
animated movie.
yeah, it's like
Alice in
Alice in
Wonderland or something.
Wonderland or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. It's like
Oh, you can't have the caterpillar smoke. Yeah,
well, you
that's that
can't,
bad.
but he gets a pipe or something. It's just like that's our life now. It's like
And since we're on the topic, I have to mention my favorite, which is Alien versus Predator, right?
Yes.
Which a movie I've never seen, but the part of the why it has the rating it has is because of slime.
Yeah.
If you look, it says it's rated whatever for both PG-13 for violence, whatever, and it says slime. So you cannot have slime in a movie unless if you want it to be rated PG or G, I guess.
No slime allowed. Just
No slime.
Nickelodeon got shut down.
So if they ever made You Can't Do That on Television, the movie, it'd have to be rated X because that's way too much slime.
Well, right, because the slime was acid slime, right? So that was supposed to be the thing. It was dangerous, but I guess maybe there's no maybe it's like a drop down when you're picking it, like the reasons. So there's no there's no other or something. It's just slime. You can't determine if it's acid slime or not, and that's like maybe like you can't do that on television. You get an exception because their slime doesn't kill people. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that could be because like you said, it'd be another great job to have in the movie industry. Instead of the person who makes these sequels 20 years after the fact, you could be the person who does the drop down of why the movies are rated the way they are.
Yeah.
And actually, there is a documentary about that, which is pretty interesting, which I believe is called "This Film Is Not Yet Rated." Have you seen that?
Yes, I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
Oh, it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, you should definitely watch that. I'm sure it's streaming. I'm sure you can get a hold of it because it kind of goes into the rating system in America and kind of what they do and how it's not fair, and they get up to all these shenanigans. And this guy investigates it, and it's interesting stuff. Like I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I will have to check that out because I'm always fascinated. I mean, it's always kind of cool too because we will sometimes on our podcast have people from other parts of the world on, and they talk about the what constitutes a higher rating in their countries.
To me that's very, very interesting.
Especially the UK. I'm obsessed with the UK ratings. So
yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, it's like in I remember there was that movie. I think it was Blue Valentine that was like. Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams, where they were having like kind of like a steamy romance that goes bad or something. Like they were in love, they were married or something. Then the relationship goes bad. But there's like a lot of like intimate scenes between the two of them, and I think they had to fight to get it underneath an R rating, or they couldn't get it underneath an R rating. Like it was like impossible. And it's like at the same time, Batman was it The Dark Knight or something like that, the one that where Batman fought the Joker, and here's like the Joker is this villain who gives people bloody smiles all the time, and they were just like, yeah, PG-13. It's like there's Maggie Gyllenhaal like waiting to watch a bomb, like the counter on a bomb go off, and like we get to watch her like waiting to die. It's like that's PG-13. That's not so bad, but
Well, but that's the thing, and this is what I've always heard is that major studios can get away with murder when it comes to that, but if you're an independent or a smaller producer, they kick you around. For some reason, they don't want these smaller independent productions to have sex and violence, but in a Hollywood movie, they just let them do pretty much whatever they want, and it's very unfair.
I think it costs a lot of money to get a rating. That's what I heard. It's like it costs a fair amount of money, so it's not free.
And they don't want to redo it. Like they
don't
want
to
redo
it, re-edit it costs money.
You
submit it 5,000 times. So it costs a fortune.
Money.
Right, like RoboCop. Remember RoboCop? If you see the uncut versus the cut version, not even the TV version, but the original cut version, it's like the funny thing about it they talk about is the fact that because they edited the blood and all of that stuff, it actually is a scarier movie when you watch the original because like the blood and everything makes it so outlandish that you can see the satire in it and you get a kick out of it. And then when they made them edit it, it actually made it a more menacing movie. It made it because you can't see like Murphy's arm getting shot off or something like that. It's just
the guy
like,
getting killed.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's a good point. Yeah, when you don't see certain violent scenes and it's up to your imagination, it does make it a significant difference and an impact.
Yeah.
Well, to go back to Chain of Command, let's not keep talking about this. I just wanted to
go back to Chain of Command.
Okay. It's funny because there's 3 movies called Chain of Command. They're all action movies.
Yes.
You got Dudikoff from '94. You got the Roy Scheider, Patrick Muldoon from 2000, and the Chain of Command of Michael Jai White and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
So,
and this is kind of the subject of the podcast we just recorded, but as of this moment haven't released, which is movies that are, which have the same title but are unrelated.
It's funny, we didn't mention Chain of Command, by the way. Oh,
no, we didn't.
By the way.
But
we
might
so I'll
do
write
another
that down.
installment.
Yeah, we're gonna do part 2 on that.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Michael J. White one because I haven't I like kind of working on the blog post for that because that's going to be like Michael J. White's like Hall of Fame induction post because I just ran out of stuff. But that movie, the Michael J. White one, it's very low budget and it's almost like you because it's got Stone Cold Steve Austin in it as well. And the person who directed Seven Below with Val Kilmer and Ving Rhames, and that movie didn't look anywhere near as low budget as this did. It's a really odd movie, but when you see it on like Tubi and all those places, it was released by Lionsgate. It has the kind of cover that makes you think that it's like a relative, like,
I've seen the cover. It looks cool.
Right.
Perfect for your Walmart or your Target. It's like, and it's Lionsgate, so you always hear that theme. Da, 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 da.
Exactly.
So it's like,
yeah, and it's not that at all. It's very low budget. It's like if you read the IMDb, it will talk about like some of the gaffes that are in it. I mean, there's things like you see a guy getting shot, like getting thrown off a building, and you can see him landing on the mat.
Oops.
Yeah, stuff like this. I mean, I guess it's hard when you're making a movie for the first time. You don't have like PM Entertainment where they could just like cut to scenes of people falling, and they didn't have to worry about that. Do we got to get the mat out of there? It's like once you have one good take from one movie, you just put it into all the other movies. But there's stuff like that. You'd see like a lot of continuity things. There's something up with that movie that I don't know what the deal is with it, but it's one of those ones like there's probably a backstory where like there were some issues with production that led to it being what it was.
Chain of Command.
Chain of Command. Well, I'm happy to talk about the other Chain of Command.
No, sorry. Yeah, this one.
Yeah. The one with Dudikoff. I mean, it's cool because he's shooting everyone with his machine gun, and there's Arlie Ermy. He plays Benjamin Brewster. Let's not forget about that. So it's like
with his mustache.
He does have a mustache. Yeah, he's like a Texan guy, right, or something.
I think so.
Probably.
Trying to think anything else to say about Chain of Command. I mean, it's a fun one. I think it's kind of underrated.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, what did you think, Matt, or Brett, if you remember watching Chain of Command?
No, go ahead. I think I've said everything I have to say about Chain of Command.
Well, then I'm out because that's wow. What a review of Chain of Command. But no, it's still a good Dudikoff actioner when you're looking around for some dudes.
Yeah, I think it's a solid one. One thing I would say, one little tiny, just kind of like novelty about this one. I think we've talked about this before, like scenes in movies of DTV movies where they take place in like embassy offices or things like that. We have pictures of the current president on the wall.
Yeah.
We do get a Bill Clinton in this one, which is nice. And actually, I'm looking at the photo right now from the post that I did because, of course, I always screenshot that whenever I see the picture of the president on the wall. The American flags that they used in this, at least one of them, they are very poor quality. Like you can see through them. They're just like the thinnest, like cheapest, like Walmart, like 4th of July celebration. Use them once and then throw them away or whatever. Put them. I guess you can't throw away an American flag, but you put it, store it somewhere and not use it again kind of flag. They're not like the this is an embassy representing the United States kind of flag.
Wow,
that's really funny. That's a really good catch there. It's really funny. I'll have to rewatch it again. Take a look. It's fun to see the. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, classic. Go ahead.
No,
I was agreeing. It's really funny. It just I like seeing the presidents in the picture. Like, oh, it's Reagan. Oh, it's George Bush. Oh, it's Clinton. It's like.
Yeah, it's one of the best novelties of these is that kind of thing. And I had never noticed the flag before either. It's just like I just was looking at it now and I'm like, I can see through this thing. This is these kind of movies have these kind of touches. I think that it's part of what makes them so much more fun, I think, than when you're watching the big budget kind of movies. They don't have these little quirks like this that just make them I mean, any big budget movie is going to go out of its way to get a really they probably have a costume person that's stitching the American flag for them. So it's like it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, you get Betsy Ross to do it. They just take Betsy Ross.
Betsy Ross.
Yeah, just get me Betsy Ross for this Dark Knight comes back or whatever. It's just like
awesome. So I mean, we can kind of move right ahead because my 3 is actually Virtual Assassin. So I think we've covered that one. So
that's that. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if Ty, if you want to go with your number 2.
Oh, okay. I have Avenging Force.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, good, really good.
Pentangle.
Yeah, got the
Elliot
Pentangle,
Glastonbury.
Elliot Glastonbury. As you know, of course, the evil villain is named Elliot Glastonbury. You get another team up of Steve James and Dudikoff, and there's a lot of great things about this. This is a classic '80s canon action movie through and through. Very enjoyable, almost some slasher-esque elements to it. There's a lot going on that's all good in this, and I give this a very high recommendation personally.
And it's like darker than you might think too, because we rewatched it about a year ago, Brett, I think.
Yeah, I remember.
And it's like, I don't remember this part. I won't give it away, but he's like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, you can't do that today." It's like,
Yeah,
I won't give it away.
Chances, and I mean, yes, and there's some of that most dangerous game element. But what's good is it's just an element. There's so many most dangerous game knockoffs that came out. A little later, more in the '90s. This doesn't lean heavily on that. It's just more of an element that's thrown in with everything else.
It's kind of a good aspect too, because you don't really expect it. So, because there's that amazing kind of sequence in the
swamp.
In the swamp, yeah. So,
and it's almost like Hard Target before Hard Target, because you have these people that are hunting other people, and and it's just definitely recommended.
And what do you think of this one?
Yeah, it's definitely darker. So I think of all the films we've been discussing here so far, and probably are going to discuss, this might be. I mean, Chain of Command was kind of it was a little bit more serious, but it was also a lot of fun. This is. I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had with this. I for sure. I shouldn't say it's not
right. It's not complete darkness.
Right, but it's definitely. I think out of the Dudikoff films, this is definitely one that's like. Yeah, it's but I mean, there's so much fun to be had in it as well, though. I think so. It's like it's a combination of both. Yeah, it's another canon one too. Canon, Steve James. I mean, it's interesting because we think of canon like Chuck Norris, that kind of those kind of movies.
Bronson,
Bronson, exactly. Bronson especially, and Dudikoff kind of came in underneath those two and gave us a lot of really great movies.
They're all pretty underrated. I would have to agree. It's like.
Well, like you said, it's probably because he didn't really go to the theater. He was strictly direct-to-video, whereas Chuck Norris and Bronson did go to the theater. And maybe that's the reason why. But Avenging Force is as good as anything they were making at the time, I think.
That's what makes the movie interesting, because isn't his name Matt Hunter in Avenging Force, just like in Invasion USA, right? That was Chuck Norris's name.
Oh, so, good point.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe
I think it was supposed to be a Chuck Norris sequel, but they just forgot to change his name.
So it's supposed to be the Matt Hunter character from
Invasion
USA?
Matt Hunter character from Invasion USA into battling Elliot Glastonbury or the Pentangle. It's like I forgot that was the same name. It's like whoops.
It's not a character. It's not just that it's the same name. It's that character.
It's that character.
That's an interesting piece of canon history.
Of canon.
Yes, it's canon. It's Matt Hunter canon. Yeah.
Yeah. I never caught that. It's actually really great. I mean, again, it's probably one of those things, right? Where like we talk about like the scripts. In this case, they had a script for, I guess, what they were hoping would be Chuck Norris doing this, and it didn't happen. I will say, I hope that the mindset was like, okay, if we didn't get Chuck Norris, we're getting Dudikoff. They were like, okay, I guess Sam Furstenberg directed it, so I know he's really close with Steve James. I don't know if that was if Steve James was originally attached to it as well, or if it was one of those things where like, okay, we're not getting Norris, let's also get Steve James if we're getting Dudikoff, or maybe Furstenberg's like, I'm getting Steve James no matter what.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know we were talking about Slater versus Colmini, and this is very similar. Glastonbury versus Dudikoff.
Right.
It's like I think Dudikoff has the upper hand. It's like, and Glastonbury gets a couple of good punches in because Dudikoff's tired from beating up all those other people in the movie.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's all about.
Doesn't Glastonbury? I've got a picture of him choking Dudikoff. Does he like?
Yeah, that's towards the end.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too with the bad guy. That was one way they could get. That was one way they could even the odds, right? Is if they could somehow get some sort of rope or cord type device, and if the good guy turned their back for a second, you could strangle them And that was one way, and it was like that kind of like that scene, right, where the good guy. I'm actually looking at it right now with Dudikoff, but it always happened in a lot of these movies, right, where the good guys got like their fingers in between the cord, and it's like, it's like.
I don't even know what you mean by that. It's great. Right? Like, is he gonna make it? Yeah, it's not looking too good for Dude.
Right.
Oh, he made it.
Yeah. Well, but like you said, it was all part of the plan to, at least make him tired, if not kill him, whichever came first. They sending all these guys after him, and he dispatches them one by one, and so by the time he gets to Glastonbury, also a town in Connecticut, by the way, he's a little logy, he's a little tired, so it's not entirely crazy that he might get in a few shots.
It's actually pretty, plausible, because he's like, all right, like another Glastonbury now. It's like,
well, it's like a boss. It's like a video game. You get to the final boss and you're running low on the energy. The boss could beat you.
Right. Well, the thing is, the Blu-ray, which I have the tape and the Blu-ray, because the tape is awesome. The cover, because you can see the people in the masks in the cover. You ever look at the VHS?
On the back of the cover, you mean?
The front.
Oh, the front. Let me see if I've got the. Oh, you're right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yes, you're absolutely
awesome.
Right. Yes.
And the Blu-ray has commentary by Dudikoff. I haven't listened to it yet because it's hard to listen to commentaries. But because we have time, but we don't have time.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But that would be an interesting listen for people then if that interests them.
In the new year. I mean, because I listened to the Dolph commentary from Universal Soldier Regeneration.
Yes.
So it's like, I am Dolph Lundgren. I am Dolph. This is Universal Soldier Regeneration.
The thing I love about that one is that he's sitting there with John Hyams, I think, right, the director. Yeah. And doesn't he say something like he's only going to be there for a few minutes, and he ends up being there for the whole movie?
He's the whole thing like, I'm only going to be here for a couple minutes. I need my face cream, but actually, I'm this the whole time.
I listened to that commentary also, and it's entertaining. It's informative, entertaining. I mean, they have a good rapport with each other, and if you're interested in that movie, and of course, why wouldn't you be? Because it's awesome. It's definitely worth a listen.
And of course, I have to mention this. Universal Soldier: Day of Reckoning. They're under their own command.
Right, great tagline.
I love that tagline. I quote it every day because finally they're under their own command. That's so cool.
Exactly. Now, one other point I should make about the cover, now that you mentioned, because I was taking a look at it.
Avenging Force, right?
Yeah, Avenging Force. The New York Times actually wrote a blurb about it, and they said, Michael Dudikoff's style is reminiscent of a young Clint Eastwood.
Is that Janet Maslin, or if it can be?
It just says New York Times. That's all it says. So it could, who knows?
Yeah, I never thought of that myself, but, these movies did play, I think, drive-ins, and so in the sense that he did that, it's not that he never went to the theater. I think he might have been in like the drive-in, almost like, or one of those, independent movie theaters which existed at the time, or maybe even like 42nd Street, like that the theater. Yeah. So if he made it to the theater, it would have been in a situation like that, and so that's where the New York Times reviewer might have seen it.
That's awesome that the New York Times saw it.
Yeah. I think you guys also bring up another great point, that for people that are out there as script writers and you're thinking of writing movies, I think characters with last names that are towns or cities in Connecticut is actually really good. I think other than like Bridgeport, I think you could really use a lot of there's a lot of cities that you could use in Connecticut.
Well, we have Killingworth.
Yeah.
Which is a real town. So how about that for a bad guy name?
Yeah.
His name could be like, I don't know, Ivan Killingworth.
Yeah. It's like perfect. It's like our buddy Larry Killmonger from.
I think there's also Killingly. I think Killingly is also a town in Connecticut.
Yeah, Killingly and Killingworth and Killdeer Road.
Yeah, there's a road in Hamden, Killdeer Road. And there's what is it? Westbrook. There's that, and wasn't there that guy who was like on the radio and his name is like Thomas Westbrook or something?
Oh yeah, that could be a cool name for like a hero, Johnny Westbrook. It's like kind of like Dirk Longstreet, kind of.
Yeah, it would be like that.
I even like New Haven if you like put the emphasis differently, like Johnny New Haven or something instead of New Haven, or Johnny New Haven, or I don't know, something like that. Yeah, but
That's
like funny. All in one word,
That's how you know when someone's not from around this area, if they pronounce it, when they put the emphasis on the new. I think if they say, oh, I'm going to New Haven, that's not really how people say it around these parts. They say New Haven. So that's how you know when they're kind of an out of towner. So, but yeah, as a full name, that definitely could be something.
Yeah, it'd be a way to sneak it in, right? So people wouldn't necessarily know that they're using the city. It's not so obvious, that if you mix it in with some of these other names that you mentioned that people might not know, and then like if somebody's name is New Haven,
And there's other havens. There's also North Haven and West Haven. So if you want to make those last names, there's no South Haven because that would be New Haven. So, but if you want to do a North Haven or a West Haven, you could do that too.
You could totally see that in like when he's like Italian kind of action movies from the 80s, like it's English as a third language, like Johnny New Haven. It's like played by Harrison Muller Jr. or whatever.
Bruno Mattei could call himself Johnny New Haven.
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Red Brown.
Perfect. So, well, I guess we will head on to my number 2 here. Sure. My number 2 is American Ninja 4. And I think people will probably be shocked that I have this one above American Ninja 1. But I think it's just because this one is just so ridiculous. And I always like ridiculous in my movies. So
do I. Yeah, I'm with you there.
I mean, I will say if I'm David Bradley, I probably would have gotten a new agent after this movie because he just spends the entire movie chained up in a dungeon. So that no good for him. But for Dudikoff as Joe Armstrong, where it's like he's like teaching these kids in a school and they're just like, they just decide though they convince him to get back in. Actually, I'm looking at the first paragraph that I wrote about it when I said American Ninja 3. I said was San Dudes. So I put it without Dudikoff, San Dudes. So I did refer to him as dudes in a actual blog post as well. But it's almost like number 3 probably. I don't know if it just didn't do well. I don't know what the deal was. What made them decide to get Dudikoff in for number 4? But it's just like kind of just like. Once you get Dudikoff in the movie, it's just the whole thing just takes off. I would have liked to have some Steve James in it, but it was just such a lot of fun for me.
And also, if you wanted to have a French bad guy, his last name could be San Dudes.
San Dudes. Yes. Yeah. Van Damme could be San Dudes.
But yeah, I mean that's true. I mean you have David Bradley. I mean it's like night and day in the sense that David Bradley is kind of brooding and has dark hair and dark features, whereas Dudikoff has the blonde hair and more of the lighter features. So it's almost like a lighter touch to things.
Yeah. I mean, not to to spoiler alert for anybody who's listening right now, because I'm going to give away the final line. But sure. I just love kind of he goes through this whole movie doing these ridiculous things, like just like punching through the top of a car to when there's a ninja on his car, he just punches through, stuff like that. Just like it doesn't care. And at the end of the movie, he's just like, if you want to find me, I'll be at the school, and he just walks off. And it's just like he's just gonna go back to teaching these kids at this school in Africa. It was just. I think it was like it took the ninja aspect of it and just really made it as fun as possible, which I always love. I mean, there's the scene where he catches an arrow. Well, it's like these two ninjas have him by the arms, right? And another one goes to shoot an arrow at him to kill him. He catches the arrow in his teeth, and then while it's in his teeth, he stabs one of the other ninjas that's holding him in the neck with it. For me, it other than Slater being up Calm Meanie, it doesn't get much better than that in a movie, and I just thought that was fantastic.
I have to rewatch
Well, the thing about him walking away saying, I'll be at the school, I mean, that's actually very consistent with the Joe Armstrong character, because if you remember, in the American Ninja 1, he's sort of like this guy who sort of has an attitude problem. He's a nonconformist. He doesn't really talk, that much. He's kind of more, what's the word? He's sort of like a rebel in the army. Right. So he kind of does his own thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it. I don't have a copy of AM4 or AN4. And
that's what the fans call it.
Well, I guess AM4 almost could work because it's American Ninja. But yeah, American Ninja.
I think AN4.
AN4, yeah.
AN4, yeah.
I don't have 3 or 4. I just have 1 and 2. So,
I assume you don't have 5.
oh no, we don't want. No one wants 5.
Yeah, 5's
there was-
I mean, 3 is interesting because it's got Steve James in it. He's wearing a shirt that says "Shalom, y'all," which is great for we're recording
That was
this
the
during
best part.
Hanukkah, but I don't know if it's going to air while Hanukkah's, but I
You know
was
that has to be some sort of Golan and Globus like in joke type thing. It was bought at like the Israel airport gift shop or something.
right. Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean. It was Dudikoff on 10 for me, which I really enjoyed. But I definitely like this one. But yeah, I guess this gets us to number 1 for yours, Ty.
Well, it's American Ninja 1/2.
Okay.
And it's like, because it's like American Ninja 1 is just pure fun. I mean, you get the exploding helicopter, you get the lasers, you get the ninjas, you get Richard Norton for 2 seconds. It's just, you can't help but enjoy this movie. I mean, like it's
right. It's pure fun. It's definitely one of the best ninja movies of the era. We call it the Ninja Boom, where there's a lot of them. Most of them made by Godfrey Ho, which don't really, compare to this. But
2 ninja scenes in Godfrey Ho, and then they blow up, and then it says the end abruptly, as we just said in the other podcast. But,
and like I said, look up Godfrey Ho's output for 1988, as I've said before. It's if you want to laugh on IMDb. It's just a lot of fun. But yeah, and like you said, it set kind of the template for the 80s ninja boom. A lot of video stores had ninja sections, and
that's the definition of awesome.
Yeah, and that was probably amazing to go through. And would that have happened if it wasn't for the success of American Ninja? I don't know.
I don't think so. No.
I mean, one of my favorites is Ninja 3: The Domination, personally.
Yeah,
but
Pray for Death.
And Pray for Death. Those are some of the best. Oh yeah, the Sho Kosugi ones, rank highly, I think. I mean, Pray for Death being the best one in our opinion, I think.
Yeah. Now I should maybe since you've got both American Ninja 1 and 2 as your number 1, then maybe I should mention that my number 1 is actually number 2 as well, so we could talk about.
Nice. We can talk about 2 for a little bit, which we haven't yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely agree with you guys about number 1. I think it's why I had it at number 5, and I was debating where I wanted to put it, and I was considering putting it at number 2 as well. I had thought about that with number 4. I think number 4 is more fun, but as a movie, I think for people, if you're starting your Dudikoff career, you're starting, if somebody who hasn't really gotten into Dudikoff stuff, I almost feel like number 1 is like the perfect place to start. And so maybe me having it 5 was a little bit harsh for it, because I think I'm telling people that if all these ones that I'm talking about that I really liked, you should still watch number 1 first.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think that makes the most sense. But you could potentially start with part 2 if you
could.
If you wanted to. I mean, that's what I did, but I was a kid at the time. But if you're an adult, I assume you could do that also.
Part 2 is just so weird because you got the ninja like training camp and like all these scientists trying to make the best ninja. And it's
and there's
so
some really
wacky.
good fight scenes,
Yeah, at the beach.
Yeah, they get into some brawls, and they get Steve James and Dudikoff, and some solid fight action in there.
Yeah,
Oh,
so that's why it had to be number 1/1.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the 1A and 1B, or I mean, it's just it is. It's like American Ninja 2 is just one of the things I think, because I was talking about number 1, how there might have been some issues there in terms of Golan and Globus wanting to have Steve James, not thinking that he was like all American enough to be the lead, and so that's why they went with Dudikoff. It feels like with part 2, it's almost like, I don't know if it's Sam Furstenberg and Steve James have an agreement, or they have an understanding where it's like, so Steve James was reportedly like really upset with American Ninja 1 that he wasn't cast as the American Ninja, because here's this guy Dudikoff who doesn't know any martial arts, and he's the one who's given the role when Steve James was an accomplished martial artist. Well, it seems like in part 2 it's almost like Steve James is like, I'm going to try to steal the movie. I'm going to just do what I do and do it on 10 and just have fun and really, really do it. And it's almost like he and Dudikoff, and it's almost like Dudikoff is good with it. Dudikoff is like, yeah, just do your thing, Steve James, and I'm going to do my thing. And so then it's like you have this. It's not that James is the sidekick. There's a partnership there, which makes it so much fun. And then of course it's like they take what was good about part 1 with Dudikoff and they make that even better too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that makes sense. It's a good observation that, it's
Absolutely.
not like Steve James is like the sidekick. It is more of an equal partnership, and I don't believe there was any bickering between the two of them.
Yeah, no bickering allowed. It's like
Yeah, of course there were some wisecracks, but
fine,
no
wisecracks,
bickering.
fine. Or
Yeah.
some banter, but yeah, no, I don't like the Bickersons of these like kind of action movies you hear.
Right.
Well, yeah, like speaking of Furstenberg, we just watched Cyborg Cop. The fanny
Right.
pack action movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bickering between David Bradley and yet another nagging female reporter, and I mean, of course, until she naturally falls in love with David Bradley, then all the bickering and nagging just goes away almost on a dime. But there's a lot of nagging and bickering in that. So I mean, it's a good movie, but
it's still a fun movie, and we're getting Cyborg Soldier very soon. We actually really enjoyed Cyborg Cop. It was really goofy fun.
It's a recommended movie, but just that character is at first kind of annoying.
Annoying. You want to almost put it on the mute button.
Yeah, I mean, I will say my review of Cyborg Cop was kind of more of a joke on the whole fanny pack thing. So it's like I was like killing the movie for the fanny, like kind of tongue in cheek, like killing the movie for the fanny. Like that's what my whole review is. But it is a fun one. I mean, Furstenberg, I think, is a director. I think we, looking at our two lists here that we have a lot of Furstenberg. I think,
That's a really good point. Yeah, it's most of his work. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. I mean, he's experienced in directing action, and
he does a great job.
Usually in good hands with the Furstenberg.
And and so it's probably something to consider that Furstenberg saw something in both Dudikoff and in Bradley. I don't know if maybe Bradley, because Bradley was friends with Furstenberg, like he agreed to do that, like that movie, the American being an American Ninja 4, where again he spends the entire movie chained up in a dungeon. Like I don't think I would. I would talk to my agent and be like, really, why are you giving me this script? I don't want to be in this. I don't want to. That's not the movie that I want to do. I want to be out there beating people up like the other guy. But yeah, I think I called it as a fun. I think I also mentioned the romantic comedy part. I think I actually said Cyborg Cop is a romantic comedy starring David Bradley as a disgraced DEA agent. So I kind of joked about that element of it, right, with the nagging woman who he falls in love with after. Yeah, I wonder if a lot of these directors like Furstenberg grew up watching films from like the 40s and 50s with like, Cary Grant, where he would be, like that element. Fred Olen Ray does this a lot too, I've noticed, and he's around the same age, I think, as Furstenberg, maybe a little younger, but it's the same idea that they have that element in the movies.
Oh, I completely agree. You can tell they grew up on classic Hollywood, and it's and those elements are there. I mean, yes, you could be making a movie about a cybernetic Todd Jensen, but it's still there, beneath the surface. And
that's kind of Todd Jensen.
Yeah.
The fanny pack. I think I made sure I got every picture of him in.
I remember I looked at your review at that. I cracked up.
Well, seeing as you're the expert, did he have more than one fanny pack? Like, did he coordinate with his outfits? Because I think he did.
He might have. Cause I guess like the idea was in that one was like the fanny pack was he's supposed to be a tourist, and so they were supposed to make him, but it just was it was so bad. And then it seems like when they made the sequel, it's almost like they were playing up the fanny pack aspect. Like it's almost like they knew how ridiculous it was. There's a Cyborg Cop too. Yeah,
it's coming soon. It's coming soon.
Well, no. I mean, does he wear the fanny pack in the sequel?
He does, and they actually use it as like it's almost like they play it up as a joke. Like I mean, there's a scene where he goes into into a big you know how you were talking about the one of the cliches, the drug deal that goes bad. He goes into the drug deal that goes bad, and his gun is in his fanny pack. And then
I can't wait to see that.
Can't wait to see that. He's got to wait in the mail. I'm waiting in the mail to get the copy.
Yeah, I won't mention any more than that, because you'll get a kick out of the ways that they bring the fanny pack into the movie. It's kind of funny.
Well, as we said in our review, which hasn't been posted and probably won't be posted for a while, but it's fanny pack with action.
Yeah.
And also, we should say for our UK listeners, I believe they call that a bum bag.
Well, in Australia, fanny means something completely different.
Yeah, same thing in the UK. So I think fanny pack is considered very rude in the UK. So they have them, but I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw online they're called bum bags, which doesn't sound a lot better to my ears. But so in case anyone's confused, that's what we're talking about.
Right. Well, because I think the idea was supposed to be that it was supposed to be worn, like the sack part was supposed to be behind you. But the thing is, like, it was too easy for people to rob you,
Right.
And so people had to wear them on the front, so they just look like these like obnoxious cod pieces, and it was just,
But if I remember, they got pretty creative with the designs. Like there's some patterned ones, and not in the movie, but in life. And I mean, it was the 90s. I mean, this was the, just a case of maybe bad or maybe good timing that, it's at the height of the fanny pack craze. So it just this movie just happened to be made when that was at its height, and magic was captured on film forever.
You gotta love that fanny pack fever.
Yeah. I think it peaked around 1993 or 4.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I guess we talk about fanny packs forever.
Well, I just remember my mom. We were going to Florida to visit my grandparents, and my mom bought us all fanny packs.
See, that's always how it starts.
Right, and she made this big point about telling us to keep an eye on them because pickpockets in the airport will have knives, and they'll cut the fanny pack off of you. I was like, Mom, I'm not wearing the fanny pack, so I don't have to worry about anybody with a knife cutting it off. And so
conversation. We're not wearing this fanny pack,
the purpose of having the fanny pack. But, exactly. But are there pictures of you from that time, like as a kid wearing the fanny pack? Like, do those exist?
No, I never wore it. So I never, I was like, Mom, I can't do this. I can't,
Buying that bum bag, bro.
Right, exactly. I remember
at the airport when you're trying to buy your Shalom Y'all T-shirt, someone could sneak up behind you and
with a knife.
Snatch your fanny pack, I guess.
Yeah. That was the best part too, pre-internet. What's kind of funny now is that, like, now that there's the internet, these kind of things proliferate even more than they did back then, where it's like you'd think with the internet you could look up and see, like, there are no people with knives going around stealing people's fanny packs. But now it seems like those kinds of things are even worse, right? Like these conspiracy theories and things like that. But I just love that idea that, like, remember, like, back then there were just, like, all of those things that parents, like, were telling kids about that, like, were, like, obviously was like the razor blade in the apple. If you get an apple,
I was just thinking razor blade in the apple.
Yeah, I've always heard that.
If I'm not mistaken, there's actually no like documented cases of that ever happening. Okay. I think it's just something. It was almost like a rumor, or just like
an urban legend or something.
Yeah, an urban legend. Yeah, I don't think there's. It could be wrong, but I don't think there's any actual cases of that. Like not even one.
Yeah.
How do you even? I guess you could just kind of dig it inside the apple. I will not to give people ideas, but it just.
Yeah. First off, there's a lot of logistical problems to this. How do you? First off, you'd have to think of it. Second off, you'd have to put a razor blade in an apple in such a way that no one would know you did it. And second off, you wouldn't have to raise any suspicions by giving out an apple on Halloween, because what kind of psycho does that?
Yeah, it's like giving out broccoli or something.
You'd have to bite into it like with just total abandon, So there's a lot of parts that don't really work.
It would be funny to get broccoli as a Halloween candy.
Yeah, let's start giving out fruits and vegetables on Halloween.
That's what's going to be happening soon. I mean, it's just going to get a couple of strawberries and some cauliflower.
Actually, I remember talking with someone. I can't remember who it was, but somehow we were talking about like what's like the worst thing your people in the neighborhood gave out on Halloween, and someone did say someone gave out those little packets of raisins.
Oh, yes, I got those. Yes, the raisinette, like the red box, the little red.
No, not even raisinettes, like raisins.
Right, but it was like a red box, wasn't it?
It's a red box. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Raisins,
like sweet raisins,
You're right. Raisinets were good. They were like
sun sweet raisins. Maybe?
Yeah. I know. I like raisinets. I'm talking. Someone gave out actual raisins, and that's lame. And then the super lame is someone gave out those little like samples of toothpaste.
No way.
Come on. They did. That's what this person told me. And it's like maybe it was like a local dentist, and they were just their hackles were up about Halloween. Even though you wouldn't think it would be, because you'd think they'd get more business, but
for more cavities. It's like $1,000 a cavity.
Giving out lots of candy and sugar.
All the candy. Yeah, so it's kind of sneaky.
But apparently this jerk gave out a bunch of like samples of toothpaste to the local children, because I'm sure they were thrilled about that.
Like, look, all these great toothpaste.
Yeah, no, that actually happened. I swear to you, that's real.
I want to see that kid's reaction so bad.
And their reaction would probably be priceless. That's probably why their dentist did it.
Yeah. Just to look in their face. He's like,
just to get that
great candy. They pour it all out on the floor. It's like, what?
Toothpaste?
Yes, like the little box. Was it like if it was in the little box too? That would be even better. Like because the travel ones would have like the box, and then it would be
Yeah,
inside.
shake out the box.
Seeing that
Yeah,
box
that
kind
I
of
don't
pop
know,
out.
but but probably. I mean, there's a good chance of that because however they gave out the little samples.
That's hilarious. I
I
love it.
that. That definitely, I don't remember anything like that. So we actually did have a dentist in our town who he was like really rich because he like kind of like he invented some kind of implant method that made him really rich. But yeah, if people went to his mansion or whatever in I don't know if it was a mansion, but it was like a big house, he would give out king size candy bars.
That's the dream you always hear about. You
Right.
know, where you go to the nicer neighborhood and they'll give out full size candy.
Yeah. Right. And I remember I got my wisdom teeth out and I had to go back in for a like a kind of a follow up, and it was right after Halloween. And I remember they were like, here, there's leftover chocolate. Here, take one. And it was like a king size. So like, is this part of the plan? Is that you give me these so that I can come back later with cavities or something? Like, and the receptionist, I guess she must have heard that like so many times because you just get like kind of a perfunctory chuckle.
Yeah.
Well, yes, haha, very good. Yeah.
10 times I've heard that today. Yeah.
Well, but you never know what roads talking about Michael Dudikoff is going to lead you down.
From Dudikoff to Halloween candy. I mean, I guess I'm out of movies from the list. I mean, let's not talk about an honorable mention or
dishonorable mentions. I think.
Oh, I do. I have one.
Did you have some honorable mentions? Yeah.
I have a dishonorable. Well, I have Cobra the show, but we kind of talked about that already.
Yeah, let's do some dis or positives either way. And I've got a couple honorable mentions myself.
I have no other honorable mentions. I just have a dishonorable, which is of course Musketeers Forever. Yeah. So, yeah. Lee Majors, Dudikoff. It's just straight up boring, lame. I wouldn't say trash, but just terrible.
Yeah, I mean, from what I remember, it's boring. There's no action, and I'm not really sure what the point of the movie was. It's like they're fixing up an old restaurant, and
they say those words. We want all for one and one for all. Didn't want to say it, but say that.
It's almost like they thought that was like the centerpiece of the movie, and like that's what would really get the audience like all revved up. I'm not really sure why, but and then this band, this like local band. It gets a lot of screen time. Almost like they're like filling time almost. And, believe me, I enjoy a good cleaning up the neighborhood or cleaning up your house montage. Like, I love it, but you can't build a whole movie around it, Yeah,
it also was a baddie in a can movie. It was like, it's very easy for us to not like a baddie if they're dumping on, like, wasn't it like they were like, these were bad guys that worked for a corporation that was trying to root out Native American population or like take them off their land or something.
Yeah, yes, I believe that was a factor in it, but it was like it was just uninteresting. Like there was nothing, there was no edge to it. It was just like something that was kind of happening,
Right, but it's kind of like that lazy kind of thing where it's just like nowadays the lazy one is white slavers, right, or like human traffickers, where it's just like, yes, of course I want to see Michael Dudikoff punch people that are trying to force Native Americans off their land. Yes, I want to see him beat those people up. It's very easy to do that, but it's kind of almost like a lazy thing where it's just like, okay, we've seen this how many times before, then. Yeah, it was. I remember. I mean, the thing for me about Musketeers Forever was when I was trying to kind of complete my Dudikoff run, I had to like download I had to like find this on the internet and download it. It was like I couldn't find it anywhere, and so I think I was so happy that I had found it that I was a little bit nicer on it. But it's available to stream now, so it's much more readily available. And I think when you put it in the proper context, it's like. The fight scenes aren't really that well choreographed. They're just kind of like very like kind of like hoedownish bar, like kind of like hit somebody with a bottle in the back of that kind of punch somebody punches you back, kind of like it's more like a reverent fight.
Yeah, you're right, and it's not like a Mission of Justice, Wincott style, very well done fight scene. And it is kind of almost. Well, you were talking about these directors that like were weaned and kind of grew up on the old classic Hollywood. It's almost like that's what this is. It's like an old fashioned Western style punch up, where you punch and the other guy punches, and then he maybe slides across the bar if they're getting really crazy.
But you don't get any of that.
Well, I think, like you said, it was perfunctory, and I'm not really sure what the point of it all was, as I said. So, not one of his better moments. I mean, it's not his fault, but it was just bad script, I think.
Yeah, it was kind of like we've got these people in the movie. Let's just put. I mean, it's like almost like this mindset of like, well, if we got Lee Majors in something, he's just going to be good, and it's going to be good. And it's like, well, no, you got to give Lee Majors a little bit of material to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so
He had nothing to
yeah,
hang his hat on, you know.
Right.
You know, I know he was the fall guy. He's the fall guy in this movie in a way.
Is this podcast almost over? Because
Okay, well, I mean, I'm out of movies, so if you want.
So the one that I was going to say for an honorable mention was actually one we already talked about, which was Rescue Me. I just think that's a real interesting movie with Stephen Dorff and Dudikoff and you know, where Dudikoff is like kind of like this he's kind of an actiony guy in it, but it's not, you know, there's action moments in it, but it's a unique Dudikoff movie. Same way Radioactive Dreams, I guess, is a unique Dudikoff movie, but I think if you can track it down somewhere, I think I mean, again, this is not a movie that I would say someone should start their Dudikoff journey
like
with.
An odd one.
Yeah. But there was that one. The other one was I had it written down, and now it's the birthday one, the birthday horror film one.
Oh, Happy Birthday to Me. Oh
yeah,
no,
it's a bloody birthday.
Oh no, that's it. But yeah, it's bloody. It's Bloody Birthday.
Yeah, Bloody Birthday. Yeah, and it was you know, I did it because I was trying to just, you know, load up, you know, finish up the Dudikoff, you know, run. So I had done I was kind of just trying to do every Dudikoff there was. And it's an interesting one. I think it's kind of in the same vein as like a bachelor party, where it's like you're used to Dudikoff being something, and this is like pre-Dudikoff as, you know, the American Ninja. It's pre him doing action stuff. It comes out in 1981, so of course Dudikoff is in his 20s then, but I think he was playing like someone just out of high school or something like that. It's a unique one. I think it's unique Dudikoff. It's kind of fun Dudikoff to get in there.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of that movie. I like it a lot. I mean, that's definitely up my alley. So I'm glad you picked that.
Yeah, and I like 80s horror too. It's kind of fun. 80s horror is a fun one. So it's kind of for people that like both 80s horror and you're interested in Dudikoff. Again, it's not your first Dudikoff. These ones that we talked about here, I think American Ninja really, I think it's kind of a consensus. That's a good first one. But yeah, you know, this is an interesting one for sure.
Anyone who says I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. So final thoughts. Any final thoughts on Dudikoff?
I'm just happy that we got to run down some of his better movies. I mean, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, you can't really go wrong with a Dudikoff movie from your local video store.
Well, I think, I would agree with that. It's something you look for. It's like you're looking through the shelf, you know, of your action sections. Oh, Michael Dudikoff's in this. It's more of a safe bet.
Yeah, you can't go wrong for the most, because he's always likable. You know, well, he's likable in Musketeers Forever, but this movie is just crud. You know,
right.
Can't help that. He can't help that. So.
Yeah, and I think when people think of DTV stars, he's one that kind of is maybe sometimes a little further down the list, especially for people that are kind of just getting into this kind of thing now, because he doesn't have newer stuff. So he's not someone
That's
that if
a
you
good
go,
point.
Yeah, it's like, you know, when you go to the streaming sites like Tubi and stuff, there's a good amount of Dudikoff on there, but it's hard. Like, I think his big ones, like the Canon films, those are a little bit harder to find. You know, you might have to rent them to stream.
Right. Them. I don't do those rentals. Just get it for free on the Tubies.
Right. Exactly. So they're not as, you know, it's not as easy, but he's definitely someone that people shouldn't overlook. He's someone that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Like a Roth Rock or Don the Dragon. He's part of that canon.
Yeah.
So,
yes, literally.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he belongs up there. I mean, I've done about 30 movies of his on the site.
Wow. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, and that's not counting the fact that I did American Ninja 2 twice. So I did it when I first did the blog, and then I was like, you know, I want to actually watch it and really give it a good. Because when I first did the blog, I was just like, any movie that I had seen before, no matter how long ago it was, I just did a review of it, and I realized like, no, it's better to. Yeah, it's better to kind of see it, because it had been like, you know, I was doing the blog in 2007, and I saw it like in like 92, 93, so I'm like doing a review of something I saw 15 years before, and so I was like, you know, I might as well actually review it, like, you know, watch it and see it. So.
It's funny how our websites progressed over the years. You know, first you just need anything. You know, that's why if you look at the old reviews that I have, I moved like Love Chronicles and Roe versus Wade, Bottoms Up with Paris Hilton as anything. It's like
the Easter Egg Adventure.
Oh, Easter Egg Adventure, yeah. Why? Well, I wouldn't watch that today, but it check out the Easter Egg Adventure if you want to see unfinished animation. It's like
Yes, if in Little Pimp, isn't there a movie Little
oh,
Pimp?
Little Pimp. Yeah, Little Pimp. It's Little Kim, Bernie Mac, David Spade. It's like a computer animated kind of junky animated movie. Little Pimp. I forgot about that. But I didn't review the Strip Game. It's the other movie at the same time with Method Man. He's like goes to strip clubs. It's not. It's like a documentary. It's like a. That was a trailer on Little Pimp. Was the Strip Game?
Strip Game.
Have you heard of that one? It's kind of. It's like it's me, Method Man, and I'm going to the strip club. It's like.
Great. Well, the thing about Dudikoff though is he does have more range than you might think, because isn't he also in? It's like a courtroom drama.
Yeah,
and
like In Her Defense. Yeah, it's good. It's Marley Matlin.
Yeah, that was like the last. I think that was the last one I needed for Dudikoff to get like all of his DTV stuff before. I went on hiatus myself, and then he's released a couple things since then. But yeah, I mean that one felt very like it was like a film noir kind of movie, but also kind of lifetimey too.
Yeah, was it made for TV?
I think so.
It was.
Yeah, because I think he has done certain made for TV movies, which are probably the most underrated part of his career. Because I think when people talk about Dudikoff, they're obviously they're going to be talking about American Ninja and the action stuff, but they're not so much talking about his telefilms.
Yeah, he did another one that's actually on Tubi, another TV movie with I can't remember the woman's name. She's a famous soap opera actor.
The Woman Who Sinned. I watched that the other day for this podcast. It's okay. I mean, it's kind of he's like plays a kind of a psycho guy. Not really much of a spoiler, and just it's okay. I mean, it's a movie on a screen.
Yeah,
I mean, if you like Dudikoff, he's good, but yeah.
It's kind of like the Dudikoff completist thing, like me watching Hollywood Safari for Don the Dragon Wilson.
That's still hilarious that you watch that.
Excellent. Well, yeah. Well, why don't we'll do some plugs here? Why don't you guys let us know, where you can find us and on all of that.
Okay. Hit it, Brett.
Well, was that my cue?
Yeah.
Well, before I even plug us, I'd like to plug someone else.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I would like to plug Richard Hawes in the DTV Digest. People should check that out online if you just search DTV Digest, because on our podcast, he wrote us this very, comprehensive email, and we read it. And at the end, just because of the way I had it on the screen, the bottom part was cut off, and I didn't really plug DTV Digest. So I do want to do that. So everyone check out DTV Digest online. But now that I've said that, ComeuppanceReviews.net is the website where we have the reviews. And if you just search Comeuppance Reviews.
We're on Facebook, Twitter's under Ty Comeuppance.
And the podcast on iTunes and Spotify, TuneIn.
Yeah, TuneIn, all your local podcasts. Yeah, all your local podcast needs. And then my Instagram is Thai Action Rocks, where I posted Double Threat today, the AIP movie.
I don't think I caught that one yet. I think I logged out of Instagram before you posted it.
I never log out.
No, I mean, I guess not log out. I closed the app. I guess close the app.
Close the app. Okay,
that's the best way to say it.
Don't do that either, Ty.
I don't do that either. I live on there. So.
Yeah, I'm on there a good amount, but usually it's you and I just chatting about movies and stuff, and then I'll like a few posts here or there while I've been.
Yeah, I try to like people's posts who like my posts, so to try to be fair,
Yeah. Well, you get a ton of likes for those because of VHS posts are so fantastic. That,
thanks. Yeah. I gotta say thanks again for having us on.
Yes,
the Dudikoff episode. It was a lot of fun.
And I was going to say, right, I think your Thai Action Rocks, the Instagram also has links to your blog and the podcast.
Yeah, it does. You click the link and it should come up, I hope. Yeah. Sometimes, Instagram's weird, these broken links, but if it's broken, it's not the website, it's Instagram.
Yeah. Because I will say, I think that's a lot of times how I'll read the reviews. Like if you have a most recent review up, like if I see it on Twitter or something like that, or if you mention, we just did a review of this, a lot of times that's what I'll do. I'll just like be on Instagram talking to you, and I'll just click on your your account, and it's like
Mission Kill is what we just posted.
Yeah, that's actually how I look at my own blog too. Is I do it through my Instagram. I just
it's just easier.
Yeah,
it is. Okay, yeah, that's good to know. I mean, but yeah, we do post one review a week. So,
a couple of years will be caught up.
Yeah, in a couple of years we'll be caught up because we've watched more than we review. But yeah, once a week is when we post something new. Ty, what day do you usually post a new review? Monday. Okay.
So you start your week off with some Robert Ginty.
Some action.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah.
More beef stew.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that.
Your week.
We'll have to do Robert Ginty on your podcast soon.
Yeah.
One of the next ones.
I mean, he's an interesting one, right? Robert Ginty, because we'd be talking like, Dudikoff has this huge career of stuff, but then that American Ninja so influential. I mean, Ginty with the Exterminator. I mean, that is
that's a good point.
Yeah.
We'll definitely talk about that too. Maybe definitely the year because we're running out of a year.
Right.
So it's like,
well, 2021. Well, there's a lot that we can talk about in 2021.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I guess with the site, I have fallen off of the one post a week. I was trying to keep to one post a week, and I was trying to type that Michael Jai White post. So by the time this episode airs, hopefully that Michael Jai White post will be out. And
I'll keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, there'll be others since then. But yeah, the site is the same, dtvconnoisseur.blogspot.com. You can go there for links to everything. Also, the novel, Chad and Accounting, you can find that on Amazon. Or you can look either my name up or look up Chad and Accounting on Amazon. Get it paperback, Kindle, or Kindle Unlimited. Always happy, people check that out. And that's everything. But thank you guys again for coming on. I know it's probably it's sometime in the near future. Either we'll be collaborating again for sure.
I'm sure. No doubt about it.
Had a blast.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll be back soon. All right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Hear that? That's the sound of a patient whose health data is protected from a cyber attack. And that's the sound of a financial system that's digitally secured from bad actors. Right now, there's an invisible war being fought on a digital battlefield that impacts what we do every day. That's why at Peraton, we do the can't be done to help protect the vital systems we rely on. Because if we don't, the alternative is unimaginable. Peraton.